Hello and welcome to another edition of Carnivore Bites. I'm your host, Jeff Sherman, along with Dr. Eric Lopkin. And I know there's more pressing matters, but I still think it's very interesting and eye-opening that we have one of the, if not the largest natural disasters in terms of the human toll in American history. And Lunch Pail, nice guy Joe, was asked if he had any comment on it or any thoughts, and he said no comment. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this was absolutely unacceptable,
Unacceptable.
but
Thank you.
but not surprising. Despite the fact that his handlers and the Democratic Party keep pushing him as this nice guy, this family man. I mean, let's not forget he only just recently acknowledged he has a seventh grandchild. He
And plus,
still
let me interject one thing. Probably not father of the year. I believe his daughter. You don't even hear much about her. A couple DUIs, Hunter. So it's not exactly father knows best either.
no, it's not. And this is the wildfire in Maui is the most devastating natural disaster. I don't know if it's in American history, but it's certainly in the last 100 years. We have over 100 people dead. And how hard is it when asked for a comment to say, our thoughts and prayers are with them. We're going to do everything we can to help them. That doesn't even commit him to anything, but it's still, a proper response. Let's also not forget, to this day, he has still not gone to Palestine, Ohio after the train wreck and the fuel spilling all over the town.
Here's what I think about this, and I'd like your comment, and I'm sure our listeners would as well. I think part of it is, yes, he's an ass, and we a self-serving asshole. We all agree with that, starting with looking at his watch in the first months of his presidency in Afghanistan, that disaster. But I really do believe, and he's going, or at least they're reporting, he's going to Maui Monday. So that's essentially, I got it, it's one thing, but, about a week away. The reason for not visiting Palestine, Ohio, as well as I think the delay in Maui, I think he's so mentally disabled at this point. I think they're scared shitless that he'd say something stupid. Like he actually went to Pittsburgh, I think it was like a couple of days ago, and said, yes, I watched the bridge collapse. And it was like, really? You weren't even there.
That's actually a very strong possibility. He went to Milwaukee to tout Bidenomics, and somebody in the audience just gave him this skeptical look. And he's like, just watch. Meanwhile, inflation is still up. They keep claiming inflation is falling. It's not. The rate that it's going up is slowing, but it has
actually. I just
fallen.
heard something about that. It's the highest, since his presidency, uptick in inflation in 100 years, beating the 1980s, and that's quite an accomplishment.
Yes, it is. But they are keeping him on teleprompters, on scripts. His handlers are not letting him take questions. He walks back and forth from the plane to the White House to he's not acknowledging reporters because they don't know what he's going to say. And this should scare the American people.
That scares the shit out of me.
This is who the Democrats are pushing for a second term when they know that he is not all there.
It's beyond not all there. You can have, I don't know, I can't, even Reagan, yes, at the end he wasn't all there, but I guess his decision making was okay, so to speak. He had a great staff that covered for him. This guy is so effing stupid. I think he could go to Maui and talk about Bo. Of course, everything. Bo died putting out a fire. Like, who knows?
Would not surprise me if he met with a family and started talking about Bo, because that's what he has done with every tragedy he's had to deal with, is he changes the subject to his own history and Bo. And I mean, if you heard the testimony of the Gold Star families from Afghanistan, they are furious with him for doing that, especially since he apparently has no memory about what actually happened to Bo. He keeps
No, he's a
changing the
liar. I
story.
think. I think he. Yeah. Okay. I wouldn't argue with it. With his, I say 10 years ago, he would. I put all my chips that he's lying, but because he's so mentally disengaged that he might not even remember what happened to Bo. But he still says this. He's been saying it a number of times that he came back in a flag draped
Right,
closet. That is
which
absolutely
he
not
did
true.
not.
And how insulting, though, if your son, your daughter gave their lives and some shithead is is lying. I mean, you would end a friendship, wouldn't you? If, let's say, a tragedy, God forbid, happened in your family, and someone at your funeral, at the wake, whatever you want to call it, said to you, "Yes, Dave, yes, Bill, yes, Fred, I know how you feel," and made up you'd be like outraged.
Yes,
And oh, there's a common decency to say, "Hey, Eric, I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry." Don't talk about your own stupid self.
and that's an ongoing problem, is he has no empathy for anybody. He is not this nice guy. And I mean, let's face it, if you go back through footage watching him talk, he's never been a nice guy. This was a myth that was created by his political machine, but now they can't control him, and they can't decide, oh, well, he can talk. No, because he just goes off on these things.
I agree. It's a very sad state of affairs. And by the way, he was an SOB back, I'm talking 40 years ago, with Jill, Miss Wholesome, while she was married to someone else, messing around with Lunch Pail Joe. And I think he owned the Stone Balloon or the Stone Pony or whatever it was in Maryland or Delaware. And basically, Biden wasn't, satisfied enough with stealing his wife, but screwed him with tax situation and other things. There was a book coming out about that anyway. So the guy's always been a son of a bitch. He not only stole someone's wife, but you got to screw the guy as well.
Yeah, I mean, the myth of him being Joe Lunchpail has gone out the window. Now people are seeing him for who he is. And it amazes me how many diehard liberals are still defending him.
Well, I mean, that brings up a bigger point. I think our national security is at risk. Okay, you look at China building landing strips in the South China Sea. I mean, this thing is not a joke. It's dangerous, and that's why I think it's anti-American. I'm sorry, I'm going to go that far. That the Democratic Party, his family, the people don't say, okay, yeah, you were there a placekeeper to get rid of Trump. I get that point, but you need to move on. They should insist on it. This guy is not, when you're that bad, just think about this. You're even looking at Ronald Reagan's second term, could go to some devastated area, pull it off, no problem, right? This guy is so effed up that he cannot go. They're scared shitless that if he goes to Maui, he might even talk about like how nice it is to go surfing, and he went surfing with Jill back in the 80s. Like, you have no idea what he's going to say.
No, you don't. And, we do have to remember that, yes, Reagan suffered from dementia at the end of
Yes.
his second term, but it was early in his dementia. So he was still able to function. Joe has had this dementia for at least 5 years already. Again, I was told by members of the Florida Democratic State Committee when he announced that he was going to run in 2020 that they knew he had dementia, which means he had to have it a couple of years at that point. So he's
all you need to do, Dr. Lopkin, all you need to do is look at the debates of 2012. when he was debating. I forgot his name just off the top of my head. And was he the brightest bulb in the Christmas tree? No, Paul Ryan he debated. And then you look at him now; it's not even the same person.
No, it's not. It's progressed tremendously. He is not capable of doing the job for another term. He wasn't capable of doing the job this term. And we're seeing he keeps, again, Bidenomics, really, by every measure, productivity is down, costs are up. It is costing the average family an additional $709 a month to get the same things that they could afford before he took office.
Okay, but I agree with you and all that, but there is an arrogance factor and a supposed stupidity factor that they think because these 25-year-old socialists in running his presidency have such disregard for the average American that they think we're so friggin' stupid that you can say, yes, you're not bleeding to death. Everything's fine. Continue while watching the ball game. No, everyone knows it. And the gall, Bidenomics, like it's something out of a bad movie. Unfortunately, it's true.
It is, and it's absolutely ridiculous. And these folks are very obviously putting their own careers and their own political power above the good of the American people. Now, that's not a new situation. It certainly isn't surprising, but it has never been this bad before. It has never been this blatant before.
That's the key. Yes, people always put their political career in the swamp, sometimes even ahead of what or in front of what they actually should be doing, but never to this degree. And again, we get back to the whole point. We've been saying this for years. It's actually anti-American to have this stool pigeon, just idiot, as president of the United States, and hiding him and thinking you can, and then also it's like almost like a Ponzi scheme. Like, how do you think you could actually pull this off as this scheme progresses? Like, do you really think? Do they really think that they can hide Biden for another 6 years, 5.5 years? It's impossible.
Well, I don't think they intend to hide him for another 6 years. I think they want to go ahead with their original plan, which was put Biden in office, then remove him and let Kamala Harris run things. Now, she is even dumber than he is, but she ticks off the boxes for the liberals. She will do what they tell her in terms of policy. So I think that's what they want to do. I think they know she can't win an election on her own. She couldn't
There's
even
impossible.
make it right. She couldn't even make it to the first primary in 2020. So this is the only way they're going to get somebody that far to the left in.
Do you know what's interesting to me, though? How checking the boxes has become such a factor in American society. Yes, Kamala went to college. She went to law school. I think politically she advanced by screwing around with Willie Brown. But, I mean, law school? What law school? I mean, it's like she is so dumb. It's like a Valley Girl of the 80s. She giggles and she thinks this funny and sexy and what. That's how she got skated through everything, just being the hot babe that can giggle and goof around. But you're vice president.
Well, she's vice president, but she refuses to put the work in. Her own staff, who has turned over, I think, 3 times so far, has said she refuses to do the research, she refuses to prepare, and it shows every time she opens her mouth.
Without a doubt. Yeah, she thinks because she's done it her whole life, because she's the box checker, she can show up and it just goes the way it goes. But I'm sorry, that's really not the case when you're vice president. But we do have the other issue, and that is indictment 750. in Georgia. Your thoughts by a radical DA, by the way.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say about this one. I mean, first of all, the fact that the indictment came right after the appointment of a special counsel investigating Hunter Biden.
Purely
Every
coincidental.
every time new information comes out about Hunter Biden, they indict Trump again. But what really bothers me about this one is the fact that before the grand jury had even voted, the indictment was leaked on the website. So it's like they had this all keyed up, ready to go. The charges were set. It was like it didn't even matter what the grand jury was going to say. They were going to say it was an indictment either way because they already had the papers drawn up.
And actually, the DA doesn't look like she's a Mensa candidate either.
Yeah, this is, and there's questions as to whether or not this can even go forward in Georgia because what they're charging him with are actually alleged crimes that took place outside of Georgia and outside in Georgia outside of Fulton County. So these would have to be federal charges, not state charges from Georgia, which is a very important distinction. And
Just a
because
bit.
the main reason they wanted to indict him in Georgia and the same reason they want to indict him in New York on state charges rather than federal is that the state charges he can't aren't subject to presidential pardons. So if he loses the court case and he's found guilty, there's no pardon for him in Georgia. There's no pardon for him in New York. On federal charges, if he becomes president, he can pardon himself. And quite frankly, I think any Republican candidate that does become president is going to pardon him, with the possible
No, no
exception of
question.
Pence.
Or possibly Christie. But anyway, yeah, I agree with that. The effect is this like the boy who cried wolf? Because it's actually getting to be comical, and it's scary, dangerous. Because then you could have a DA in Rhode Island charger. So the cat's out of the bag. We now have a dysfunctional so-called democracy at this point. I mean, and does it reach a point where now he gets indicted in Tennessee for something? I think it's losing its shtick.
Oh, it has. If you really pay close attention, you'll notice that many Democrats have stopped talking about the indictments because every time they indict him, his approval rating goes up. So they've stopped talking about it. Republicans are turning out in droves, not because they like Donald Trump, but because he has become the poster boy for this two-tiered system of justice.
Wait, so let me add something. It's beyond two-tiered. It's about the Stalinistic approach, the Lewinskyite on the Democratic Party, that how the Democratic Party has evolved or de-evolved to a radical socialist party that will do anything to destroy their end. The stupid bullshit first impeachment over a phone call, these stupid indictments that no other president, Nixon even didn't get indicted after his presidency. The thing, it's scary, ridiculous, and I believe it's not only two-tiered judicial system. I think Trump has become the poster boy for the swamp, and the swamp wants him taken down. That's what it really is.
Yeah, it's not about Republican and Democrat. It is the insider versus the outsider. It is the swamp. I mean, why has Biden not been indicted on the classified documents charges? We
in his
know
garage. In his
right.
garage.
We know how long does it take to investigate? Everybody saw the documents. We know he took them. We know that unlike Donald Trump, he didn't even have the reason to have them in the first place. They
He
should
wasn't
never have left
president.
this right. He should never have left the skiff. So why hasn't he been indicted? Because he is the ultimate insider.
And that's why I think you have a good point. If Americans really think this through, even though you think Trump is an ass, and that's a long list of people that believe that, myself included, it's really, if this thing goes down, we got problems in the United States. Not that we already don't have that. It's a clear signal that we're not going to allow this to happen.
And that's important. Now, I mean, honestly, I don't want Trump to be president
Me neither.
again. I don't want him to run again. I don't want Biden to run again. But if you vote for Trump, it's basically saying we're aware of what the Democrats are doing. And as distasteful as it is to have Trump as president, we cannot allow this to continue.
I
And that's
agree
why
with that.
I
And also
really
another
hope.
caveat in the Georgia trial, they're going to not give him any, let's say, preferential treatment. Supposedly, mugshot will be published. Plus, they're entertaining the possibility of having cameras in the courtroom. And
Yeah,
my
there's
question: if they have cameras in the courtroom, does that help or hurt them? I think it might help them because they're going to show how stupid these people are.
Yeah, I'm not sure if the cameras will help or hurt. I think it is a good thing that the American people actually see what is going on. But there was some great footage this morning that I saw basically showing that everything that they indicted him on in Georgia, Stacey Abrams did the same thing and they just let her go.
Oh, there's no question. Yeah, absolutely. They have her on film doing it.
Yes. And
My
they
question to you
showed
is,
the footage.
yeah, John Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire, stated that he believes Trump cannot win. Your thoughts on that? I mean, with these indictments, do you think is that true or not? Do you think it's going to have a weight that people are just, God, this is just too much? I think there's a real possibility.
I think it's going to affect some people that way. They're going to go, this is a bridge too far. Enough is enough, and not vote for him or stay home. But it's also energizing his base like nothing we've ever seen. So I think he can win. I don't think it's going to be a cakewalk for him by any stretch of the imagination. I do think the Democrats are right to fear a third party run because anybody that doesn't want Trump, if they don't want Biden, they'll either stay home or they'll vote for a third party. Nobody is going to say, "Oh, I'm voting for Trump," and then have the third party come up and go, "Well, maybe I'll vote there." The Trump supporters are Trump supporters. They're not going anywhere. So yes, I do believe a third party will pull votes from Biden much more than it'll pull votes from Trump.
Yeah, and to that no labels
Yes.
is actually gaining traction, especially in swing states, in terms of going over the bar to be a factor in the 2024 election. So I think that's a factor that the Democrats have to be concerned about.
Well, they are very concerned about it. They've been trying to keep no labels off the ballot by going to court. And in fact, a judge in Arizona just found in favor of no labels, slapping the Democratic Party down, saying, no, you don't have a case here. They can be on the ballot. And
But I thought the Democrats were the ones that said democracy's on the voting block. If Trump aren't they the ones that are so pro-democracy? Would they want every voice to be heard?
Well, no. Listen to what they always say. They say democracy is on the block. They say the election is all about protecting our democracy. They never say that the Republicans are the ones damaging the democracy. It's them that's been destroying our democracy.
Pretty much true.
Yeah, it's and you're starting to see, especially on the state level, more and more longtime Democrats leaving the party because it has become this left wing cartoon. It is not the Democratic Party that you and I grew up with. It's not the Democratic Party of John F. Kennedy and even Bill Clinton. It's not the
Kennedy
party
would
of,
have his ass thrown out of the party.
oh yeah,
He'd be labeled
JFK,
probably a racist, a sexist, you name it.
which is
Totally
why
not
I
into this.
which is why I find the attacks on RFK Jr. so hysterical, because he's not that far away from his uncle's policies,
But
and they can't handle it because they're not left wing enough.
that is the quintessential point, is that if you look how the Democratic Party has basically transformed into a left-wing radical socialist entity led by AOC and other nutcases. You have RFK, which is pretty much JFK. I mean, about his thoughts, his attitudes, his policies. He's immediately dismissed as a nutcase in the Democratic Party and by mainstream corporate media.
Yeah, and you're hearing the phrase more and more often from, again, longtime Democrats saying, I didn't leave the party left me. Bill Maher has been saying that, Jon Stewart's been saying that, a number of politicians who have left the Democratic Party have said that the party has gone too far to the left. And I said this, it's probably over a year ago that I had done a video for Raw Naked Truth where I was talking about the fact that I grew up knowing State Assemblyman Chuck Schumer. He worked with my mother on some policies because my mother was president of the Parent Teacher Association. And I can say with absolute certainty that State Assemblyman Chuck Schumer would be horrified by the actions of Senator Schumer.
I believe that. Interesting. And the only real question is, how did it happen? I think it's his own political survival, and being in the Washington Democratic establishment can change anyone. Now, back to the Republican race, you have Vivek now has moved in nationally, depending on the polls, closer in the number 2 position, and Christie in New Hampshire has moved into the number 2 position in New Hampshire. And I believe it was Sununu said that Trump's not showing up to the first debate because he's scared to death of Christie. I think it's a combination of many things, but that's not so far from the truth, because Christie, unlike the others, are skirting the issue of Trump. Christie's only path, and I'm not saying he has a legitimate path, but he's going mano on mano. It's a personal thing.
It is a personal thing with Chris Christie. I don't think it looks like, yes, if Trump doesn't show up for this debate, it does make him look weak. It does make him look scared. But I honestly don't think that's why he wants to skip the debate. I think, one, he doesn't want to have to take questions about all the indictments. And let's face it, that's going to come up over and over again.
I think that would help him, but go ahead.
But honestly, I don't think he has anything to gain from being at the first debate because he's so far ahead in the polls. Everybody is going to be gunning for him. He's going to be on the defensive. Now, I'm saying this as I think this is his frame of mind. I don't agree with this. I think he should get the debate. I think that's how he's looking at it. He's like, no win situation.
I think it's personally a mistake for him. His whole brand is brass balls, so to speak, and you look like a wussy boy not to show up. Cowboy it up, dude. I don't think it looks good at all. And I think it's going to open, and I think it's could open up things to other people like Vivek. I actually believe him that he says the country needs a landslide like Reagan in 1980. And I truly believe if it was him versus Biden, you would get that landslide. He's intelligent. He's successful in a debate. I would literally get popcorn and a 6-pack of beer because that would be more entertaining than going to a Rolling Stones concert back in 1985. It would be man against boy. I don't think they'd even go through with it. I think they'd make up some bullshit thing that he's suffering from something leg disorder or something he can't debate.
Yeah, Vivek would absolutely decimate Biden in a debate. And Vivek has been very smart about his campaign because all of the candidates have taken a side on the Trump issue. Christie has taken Trump on head on. Most of the others have sort of tried to avoid it while they're trying to woo the Trump voter. Vivek went a different way. He's come out in favor of Trump's policies, but he has said the problem is he's got all these legal problems. He's going to be distracted. He's very polarizing. We need somebody who can push forward these policies without the Trump baggage. But he's been very careful not to insult Trump, not to antagonize Trump. So if he can beat Trump in the primary, he's not giving Trump followers any reason not to vote for him.
I agree. He has America First policy without the idiosyncrasies, and that's being nice, and all the baggage that Trump has. I really believe, by the way, I think he would make an excellent candidate. I think he's right on with it, basically dismantling the swamp, various agencies. We'll see how it goes. Do you think Trump shows up for the second debate? I think he has to.
I think he has to show up for the second debate. I don't think he has an option. Again, I think he should show up for the first, but if he doesn't show up for the second, he's done. He's toast. But
I would, yes, agreed.
If you take a look, though, at the lineup of the Republican debate, Vivek, Nikki Haley, Tim Scott, have you noticed what a diverse group the Republicans have?
Oh, you mean that being a 75-year-old white person isn't diverse?
Yeah, the Democrats have been yelling about diversity and ticking boxes. But if you take a look at the Republican presidential candidates, they're much more diverse than anything the Democrats have come up with.
And much stronger as well. Even if you go back to 2016, the Democratic primary, it's like la la land. You had so many losers. You had Mayor Petey, you had Elizabeth, the Chief Warren. It was just Loserville. So I think as far as intellectually, capability-wise, experience-wise, the Republicans, if there's no shenanigans, would kick ass. And if Trump got out of the way, I think Trump, I really do believe Trump is the only one that can lose to Biden. Maybe Christie.
I think, actually, I don't think Christie can lose to Biden at this point.
I think you're right, actually. I take it back.
Especially given how he's taking on Trump. But, the Democrats, and it absolutely cracked me up the other day when James Carville came out and was touting the strength of the Democratic bench. It's like, really? The Democrats have no bench. Kamala is useless. Buttigieg is useless.
Oh, wait, I got to interject one thing about Mayor Pete. You talking, I've never seen quicker in my political life, whatever, observing politics. No one's gotten the check faster than him. In other words, he's done. Check, please. He screwed up everything. He has no capability. He was another box checker, and I think politically he's done. He'll be like an MSNBC spokesperson or talent, but that's about it. Sorry.
Pretty much. But I mean, the Democrats have no bench anymore. And it's because they went so far to the left. These left wing candidates cannot win a national election. And the Democrats know this. That's why they pushed Biden. Remember, all through 2020, Biden was the centrist candidate. He was going to bring the country together. And then it was the Trojan horse
He
because
was the Trojan horse.
they know these left-wing morons cannot win across the country.
100%. Speaking of across the country and a possible, I don't know if he'll do it in terms of a no labels candidate. Manchin is now pushing back. I think he's scared to death about West Virginia, saying that he'll do everything he can to push back because he voted for the Inflation Reduction Act. That they continue with this, with the bait and switch. He's a little too little, too late, my friend.
It is
Sorry,
too
you
little.
got that picture. In a campaign in West Virginia, you have the picture of Joe Manchin being hoodwinked by Biden and by what's his name from New York, our buddy there,
Schumer.
Schumer. Yes. So check, please.
Yeah, I think
And I
it
think
is.
his only possibility to be politically viable would be no labels, because I
Yes,
think he's
and
toast in West Virginia.
I think he will lose in West Virginia if he runs again because of the Inflation Reduction Act. But I do honestly believe his anger is genuine. He believed Schumer. He was taken for a ride, and
And I
now
believe in
he's pissed.
Tinkerbell and Santa Claus.
No,
Hello, genius.
he is pissed that they took advantage of him. And yeah, it's his own fault, but
You're dealing with
he
Chuck
can
Schumer. Hello.
he can take it out on the party like no other. He can leave the party if he unlike cinema, if he leaves and becomes an independent and stops caucusing with the Democrats immediately lose their majority in the Senate. Remember, they've only got the one vote majority. So he can screw the Democrats over like nobody else. And if he goes to a no labels campaign, yeah, he's not going to get Trump supporters voting for him. He's not going to get diehard Republicans voting for him, but he is going to get Democrats who don't want Biden.
Hand over
And
fist. I think that he would give the election to whoever the Republican, in this case Donald Trump, would be. Shifting gears a little bit to the social side of things, we have Disney. You can feel the flame from here, the heat. I've never seen anything in play. They came out with a woke Snow White. Not only was that bad enough, and that's crashing and burning, but Rachel Ziegler, I guess, is the star, came out. Of course, most of these actors are true geniuses. Um, Basically said that the 1939 edition of Prince, with Prince Charming, he was a stalker. I mean,
yeah,
Disney? It's just one disaster after another.
well, I mean, this was quite frankly one of the dumbest things they could have done. The the story is called Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. And the first thing they did was remove the dwarfs
Yep,
because dwarfs
it's like
could,
Jurassic Park and get rid of the dinosaurs.
right, because that could be offensive to someone. And then they cast an African American as Snow White, who in the story it states quite plainly she is called Snow White because her skin is white as snow. So why bother making Snow White? Make something original or semi-original based on the story, like West Side Story was based on Romeo and Juliet. Don't call it Snow White. Take the basics of the story, it's a public domain story, and create something new. But no, they want to stick to Snow White and just absolutely destroy it. And then, yeah, 1939, he's originally a stalker. Okay, first of all, if you take a look at all of the movies that Disney has made over the years that are based on fairy tales, The Little Mermaid, Snow White, Cinderella, the originals are so much more gruesome than what Disney put out. So
Agreed. Yes.
I mean, to say, oh, he's a star, it's absolute stupidity, and it just goes to show this is how far political correctness has gone. This is the woke agenda, and people all over the world are going, "That's the dumbest thing you could say. Go away." Disney is in such trouble because of its woke agenda that they are looking at the possibility of having to sell the entire company to survive.
Oh yeah, no, and spinning off things like the once proud ESPN that is like basically unwatchable. No one under like 70 watches it. It's been a horror show, and you know something? I feel bad for bad things. Unfortunate things happen to people that don't deserve it. But Disney, you earned it. Hasta Nuega, baby. Can't happen soon enough.
Yeah,
Last thing on the go
they
ahead.
did this to themselves. And
That's what I'm saying. Yes.
I've mentioned this before. You know, they bought Lucasfilm and Marvel Comics because they needed properties that were going to appeal to young boys. And what did they do? They did everything they could to make sure it wouldn't appeal to young boys. This was the abject stupidity of Disney saying, we know that we're lacking in this area. Let's get something to fix our problem, and
And
then
destroy it.
let's destroy it by doing to it what we did with everything else.
Because woke is a drug. That's unfortunately how bad it's become. And also, when you're drinking Chardonnay with the rest of your wokish elite, you don't know about anything about middle America. You hate middle America and you think everyone's woke, but guess what? They're not. But it also has some serious ramifications. There was and I actually saw them in an interview, a Catholic family that wanted to adopt a child, something that is certainly a huge positive. Both had great jobs, education, everything else, background. They were denied because they were Catholic. This is kind of scary. And the arbitrators believed, or the deciders believed, that they would not be fair to an LBGQXL7 kid, whatever the hell it is.
Yeah, I think this is going to go to court.
Yes, it
I
will.
think I think this will go probably all the way to the Supreme Court, and it will be decided in this couple's favor because that is blatant religious discrimination.
Of course it is.
And I mean, it is absolutely amazing how the woke, it's all about diversity, it's all about equality and equity, but they have no problem discriminating against Catholics. They
Well, wait
have
a second.
no,
I have to interject something. Catholics, there are certain groups, and I'm going to have to say Jews are among them.
I was
It-
about
I'm
to go
sorry, it's
there.
the truth. What?
I was about to go there. Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, great. No, because they were once the darlings of the Democratic establishment. Now they are no longer needed. Get the hell out of here.
And you're also seeing now, we've seen it in school systems around the country, how the woke are attacking Muslims because Muslims are very religious, they have a lot of the same beliefs as Catholics in terms of LGBTQ.
And religious Jews.
And yes, and they're being told, oh, they just don't understand, they're ignorant. So in the name of diversity, to protect the well, it's not even the LGBT community, it's just the trans community that's causing this problem. It's got nothing to do with lesbians and gays. But you're talking about discriminating against people's religious beliefs, which, again, freedom of religion is literally in the Constitution.
I think, you know something, I 100% agree with you, and I find it fascinating that I'm sure of it, the Democrats thought, and they, encouraged a lot of immigration of Muslims into America, and they assumed. Actually, the Democrats are a lot like Disney. They can screw anything up. That they would be the Democrats tried and true. Actually, the opposite. I think Muslims are running to the Republican Party because they're treated like shit. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're seeing that in a lot of groups. We're seeing it with Hispanics, who also are very traditionally Catholic, Christian, religious, and the Democrats just have no tolerance for religious freedom. And you're seeing all of these groups going, well, if you're going to attack my religion, I'm certainly not going to put you in a position of power.
But wait a second, Dr. Lockman. I thought only that Republicans were mean, racist pigs, but isn't it kind of the quintessential definition of racism when you say you're too stupid to understand this, a la Muslims, or your opinions don't really matter? That's racism.
Well,
instead of respecting someone's religion and beliefs.
Everything the Democrats do is essentially racist because they're saying you're not smart enough to succeed on your own. You need our help. Guess what? Nobody needs the government's help to succeed. They may need short-term programs like unemployment or welfare to get through difficult situations. That's why these things are called safety net programs. But to say you can't succeed unless we help you, that's the definition of racism.
100% agree. Dr. Lopkin, another great show. I think, wait a second, we won't be able to talk about the debates. It's on Thursday. But,
no, the debate happens after our next episode, so we will be talking about that in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lotkin. We'll be back next week, and our listeners can give their input as well on the show, can't they?
Absolutely. You can go to the Carnivore Radio Facebook page and contact us there. You can go to xvadio.com/connect and let us know what you're thinking. And of course, while you're there, you can listen to every episode of Carnivore Bites, as well as the rest of the Xvadio Podcast Network at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Carnivore Radio website, the Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech.
I thank you, Dr. Lopkin.
We'll see you next time.